Hello everyone and welcome back to the next episode of the Road to FIDE Master series. In this one I will cover the analysis of the last round of the Chess Eagles Chess Festival Autumn Edition. So without further ado, let's see the game. The game started with knight f3. I decided not to enter the e4 move since against my opponent I've played e4 around 15 months earlier, and he replied with e5, and even though at the time he was like 1500 elo rated player, I struggled quite a lot to win, and I did so only in the endgame. So I decided against going into e4 e5. I tried to take my opponent into undisclosed route, and he chose g6, and I thought to myself, okay, I know that he tries to implement the Sicilian dragon from time to time, and he plays the normal dragon, not the accelerated one. So first of all, with such g6 move, it might be possibility for me to enter the accelerated dragon, which might be better for me than him, for example. And also on top of that, he does not have to go into the Sicilian. Maybe he can change a little bit. So I was debating now whether to go with e4, allowing c5 from the opponent, or maybe go d4, not allowing c5. So I was debating quite a lot, and even though it was only move number 2, I spent some time on it, and I decided in the end to go with d4, stopping c5, and then trying to ask my opponent the question, what are you going to play? If he played now knight f6, I would be happily entering the King's Indian defense with white pieces. However, my opponent played bishop g7, allowing me to now play the move e4, and we are kind of switching into some pierced defense structures, and I knew that this actual opening is not the one that my opponent would choose normally. So even though he might know the structure itself, he might not know all the tricks in this. So I decided that after d6 I will play bishop c4 queen e2 idea, which is quite annoying, as I've said, especially for the players that don't normally play this opening, because my idea seems simple, straightforward. I want to push e5. It may seem scary sometimes, and for that reason you want to fight for this square, but how to fight against it? Well, with developing knight to d7 seems like the obvious choice, but as you can tell from the e-verbal, guys, look at it now. After knight b to d7, it goes up and up and up and up. And what's the reason behind it? Well, the reason is quite simple and familiar if you know the stuff. If you don't, that might be a surprise, same as for my opponent in this game. But with that move, you are limiting your queen's choices, allowing me to think about the bishop takes f7 ideas. So just to give you a quick example, after, let's say, such a line, knight e6, the queen is completely trapped. So that's why knight b to d7 is not working, because you are taking away the squares from the queen, and also you are blocking the bishop attack. And for that reason, bishop f7 becomes a real option. I knew already that I should be winning. The question is how to do it in the most precise way, because I didn't like the variation in which opponent goes to g8, because even though I can now deliver the attack to the queen and then once more and then take the rook, I was unsure about this knight, whether or not it will be able to go back, for example, after some knight e8 variation and then b6, bishop b7. Also, my opponent could have tried queen d8 in order to have the idea of bishop b6, bishop b7 even faster. So I didn't want to risk that, and I wanted to be sure that I will not be getting into any tactical trouble. And I found the e5 move that computer also says like it's the best one. The point being that if my opponent takes it, because even though if he now sees this idea, there is nothing he can do about it really. So if he accepts now after the sacrifice, the point is that king to g8 will not be working, because I deflected the d pawn, and now I am actually checkmating my opponent on the f7 square. So that's why I played e5, and only then I sacrificed, and at this point it's obvious that my opponent cannot take the bishop, so he has to go to f8, and obviously at this point I have already many moves that are winning because of the kings not being safe and so on. However, I decided to go for the knight g5 jump with the hopes of knight e6 and the fork. That's why my opponent had to go with knight to b6, because there are no other squares available. And now I can simply take the pawn with the idea of dropping back the bishop in the next move, having the pawn advantage, having all the activity in the world, and having opponent completely crushed. I believed that knight g4 was the best move for the opponent in order to at least attempt taking this pawn, because if I want to keep it, f4 move comes with few drawbacks, one being that my bishop will never be so active as he can be with the diagonal open for himself, and also f4 move opens this diagonal a little bit for the king. Maybe that's something to worry about. Obviously now we are choosing mostly between the good and the better, but the point is that knight g4 was more annoying and I would have to think what to do. I was considering also like bishop e6, e6, bishop b3, castle, so plenty of choices. The point being that if I now choose a correct plan, I will be winning later regardless. Thankfully though, my opponent jumped to d5, allowing my job to be even faster and more pleasant to me, since I have the queen f3 move with the idea of bishop going anywhere in the world and discovered attack. And if my opponent plays bishop f5, now I can actually try to play a move like this with the fork. And the problem is, I mean, maybe it was from the distance for my opponent that I couldn't play it because of this and that, but once again I am discovering the attack, and as you can tell, the mate is there, or my opponent can cover the f6 square with the knight, but then I have the piece advantage and easy life. And for that reason I guess he went with knight f6 immediately, with the hopes that I will take knight immediately, and then with the attack here and there and open if I might be having some difficulties, but obviously that's not the case since I went with knight e6 as of now, and after bishop e6, bishop e6, I indeed got very same position as we discussed before, just with one more tempo to the opponent, but he has no use of this tempo. He played queen d4, after which I took the knight, he gave a check, I covered with a queen, he exchanged, and I believe that somewhere around here, or the latest, as of now, my opponent should have resigned. He didn't. That was, I'm not saying rude, but completely unnecessary. It was the last round of the tournament, so why do you play on such a position? I believe I am good enough player to not mess it up, especially in the classical game with nearly all the time on the clock, because I have not spent so much time of it. So yeah, quite a strange decision from my opponent, so I will not get into detail any further. I will just play the game out for you guys with the play button on chess.com, and I will try to, in the meantime, sum up the tournament play from this tournament of mine. So the point is that I scored 3.5 out of 5 points, so not very good result. I've played 2 players on my level. I scored half a point from those 2 games, and this half a point was a miracle really, so not something to brag about. With the worst players I made 3 out of 3, but once more I haven't get much rating from it and so on, so not an ideal choice to start with this tournament, start in this tournament, sorry, but I already told you guys that in the episode number 1 from this series, from this tournament I mean, so episode number 33 of this series, because the title says it all. I have sinned, that's my sins, and I have to live with that. So review is pointless I guess, but obviously we can look at this just to confirm that I've played a very good game. Maybe I will have like 95 only, so yeah, over 80 accuracy from my opponent, but obviously it's should be lower, much lower, but I'm not getting into detail. And with that guys, as you can tell, game is really short. Let's sum up not only the tournament, which I kind of did in the meantime, but also the whole 3 months of my play. So let's go into the outro, let's say, setup. As you can tell, as I've told you guys, 3.5 points out of 5, 4th place, -7 on the rating, so I am dropping down to 22-30, still a decent rating, especially considering that after the loss in the 3rd round it could have been much worse, so I'll take that. 20-30 is still a good starting point for this FIDE Master title that I am going at, so that's nice. I don't have any more things to say about this tournament though, because as you can tell, I won against guys I should have won against, and I lost and drew against the guys that I can put up a good fight and they can too. So that's that. However, as I've said, I've prepared some more graphics for you guys considering my whole 3 months. So now let's sum up all those 37 episodes and 39 games. 2 episodes consist of 2 games, so that's why there are less episodes than games. How did it go? As you can tell from the graphic on the right, here it should be right. I scored 75 rating points. More than happy with that. Across the 5 tournaments, it's exactly 15 per tournament. I'm going away. That's not good. And so yeah, decent result. And I'm closer and closer to this FIDE Master title. You know, one more summer like that, and I will be there. So quite a promising results for me. And as you can tell, my average opponent rating was just below the 2100 level. I scored many wins but few losses, and it then gives the 75 points to be gained, right? So that's quite nice. However, now I have 2 more graphics to you in order to define where did I lose the rating, because you know, in one tournament you win, in one you lose. Let's now see at the tournaments without those quick weekend tournaments with very low opponent rating players. So let's do it like that. As you can tell, if I would not include the 2 tournaments that I've played with much lower rated opponents, my average opponent rating would be actually very nearly the rating of mine when I started the series. So as you can tell, it's a very good starting point. And as you can tell, with that average rating, I scored also amazingly. I lost only 3 games, I won 13, and that's basically where the gains come from, because if you think about it like that, I have plus 10 result. With a win with a player at your level, you get 10 points. So if I played only those, I would have gotten exactly 100 rating point gain. So quite a lot, and that tells you guys that tournament selection is a very important case, because if I now switch the graphic to the tournaments with those players that were much lower rated, you will see that the average rating is 1945. Unacceptable. I should not play in such tournaments. Not only that, I also lost 3 games, right? So 3 games here and 3 games there. What does it tell you guys? It tells you that, and it tells me that it's quite hard in chess to win on demand with each color against each opponent that is much lower rated than you. So you should just not risk all your rating and glory and stuff to fight against them, because if you do it, if you push it too far, then you lose. So that's that. Against better opponents, as you saw previously, I can, you know, draw a game, so it's not the end of the world. So that's why you can see much more draws, because a draw is a normal result, right, with the opponents of the same level. And that's why I don't have to risk too much. That's why I can navigate the game with a better approach. So that's much easier. And yeah, I guess, I hope, I think in the future I will try to not make the same mistake and the same sin by starting in the tournament of the Chess Eagle Festival or any other of that kind, meaning that it's a weekend tournament, 5 rounds, very quick, classical and stuff like that, because as you can tell, it just does not pay off, both rating wise, results wise, I know, training wise, because I don't have that much to analyze in those games, since I am winning most of them, and if I'm losing, it's due to clear mistakes usually. So yeah, the point for the future is this: I should try to aim to play in such tournaments in which average rating of my opponents is at least as high as my own, because then a draw is a normal result and I can happily play tournaments without added pressure. And if that's the case, hopefully you will see me as a FIDE master in 1 year, 2 years. We'll see about this, because obviously not every tournament with players at my level will go as great as those 3 during those 3 months. So I guess some obstacles may come on the way, but hopefully there won't be so many of them, and I can still make my rating better. With that in mind, I am summing this all up because the 3 months of playing stops for me now, and I will be competing in 2025. So for this year it's that. I will be uploading some videos to the channel this year too, just not regarding the Road to FIDE Master series. So if you enjoy both this series, give me a like, and the whole channel, give me a subscription. We'll see each other with the next materials in here. So thank you very much, and we'll see each other. Bye bye.